Hello, everyone. It is Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. I'm a little bit tired, but I promised somebody a replay. So, this is Threxor. I am re-recording the second game of the semifinals on the Among the Shadows tournament that took place this last Sunday. The stream broke in the middle of it, and I promised both players that I would go ahead and record an analysis of the replay and post it up to YouTube. So, this is that recording. This is going to be Game 2 in the semifinals between a Zerg player by the name of Drizzt and a Protoss player by the name of Nimue Hitsuji. I have to keep looking at the name to make sure that I get the vowels in the right spot. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into this game and get this analysis kicked off. Okay, up in the top right hand corner we have from Clan Wolves, Drizzt. And down in the bottom left we have our Protoss player, the red Protoss player, Nimue Hitsuji. So this had been a very interesting circuit actually. The tournament didn't start off the smoothest. We had a few people that were a little bit late. We had some people that didn't show up at all, but it was a kind of a short notice tournament, and it was the Bronze and Silver League people. If I remember correctly, Drizzt is I want to say he's Silver now. He might have been Bronze during the league, during the tournament, but he is now a Silver player. Last I saw him online. And just for the whole tournament, everything that he participated in, he played very solidly. He was very consistent, always stuck with the build that he was comfortable with. You could tell that he was in it to win it. Our Protoss player put up a good fight in Game 1 of this particular series, but then just ended up getting out macroed. He made a few mistakes early on in the game, and it really hurt him later on. A couple more notes. This was the tournament maps of yesteryear, held by a clan by the name of Among the Shadows that they very kindly allowed me to cast for them, and I had a blast doing so. It was a tournament with the very first season of Wings of the Liberty maps loaded as the map pool. So this particular matchup takes place on Blistering Sands. And as we start out, we see that our Protoss player, who I'm going to call Nimue from now on, starts by putting a really far forward pylon right here. This pylon ends up becoming very, very pivotal later on in the game, and we'll see a lot of good play off of that. It does not go to waste. Also, we see that the drone from Drizzt has been blocked out. The Zealot being chrono boosted out from our Protoss player. Mostly just, kind of a calm, relaxed game. We see the expansion come down at about the 3-minute mark and about 16 or 17 supply from our Zerg player. So a good, solid, safe build time. We have another pylon up in the north here. Nimue actually leaves this pylon in place, unlike this bottom pylon here. So during the cast, we were sitting there and we saw this, and me and my fellow co-caster, Dave Sprite, we're both just kind of sitting on the edge of our seats, hoping that we would see some sort of Stargate or proxy warp gate play come from here. So we have the initial scouting Zerglings coming out for Drizzt now. Overlords are in decent position. I mean, he's got one sitting over here in the corner. Zerglings go ahead and checking out the watchtowers, and it's a really good move to take these watchtowers on this map because they do cover almost a third of the map through the middle. Some other things to know about this particular map. There's a lot of really wide open engagement spaces. None of the ramps are very, very tiny except for the ramp directly into the main. There is this little splash zone right here, which makes it devastating when you have certain Terran players that like to park siege tanks here and here. or even on this side, really makes it devastating. But with Protoss, it ends up being a pretty even match. And up here in the top middle portion of the map, we have a proxy Stargate going down. At this point, we're looking for early Oracle harass, early Phoenix maybe even. Phoenixes can be really, really powerful on a tiny map like this because they can just dart around all over the place. Now this pylon down here, for the longest time our Zerg player could never see it. It wasn't until the creep finally spread down to here that he saw that this pylon was in place. But we think that he didn't do anything on it because he really wasn't paying attention to his minimap. So, couple key things to keep in mind. Always watch the minimap if you can tear your eyes away from the screen. So this proxy Stargate, unlike some pro players that will throw out a early Oracle or an early Phoenix and get some harass in and maybe some utility later, we are seeing Void Ray check. So we were both kind of giddy about this, seeing some good old classy cheese coming out of our Protoss player in the tournament. So this particular little hidden base here is going to go unseen for quite a while in the matchup. Meanwhile, we have 4 gates coming out, 4 warp gates. Warp gate research was researched relatively on time. It finished up around 7 minutes, which is when it should. So he goes ahead and he warps in 4 zealots right here to the back. Roaches and the Queen will go ahead and clean this up. Dritz won't have any problem holding this off. Drops 2 spine crawlers. He has level 1 missile attacks on the way. He also has metabolic boost for Zerglings finishing up. I would have liked to see metabolic boost be used a little bit earlier from Dritz if he was going to get it. It's one of those upgrades that's cheap enough early on in the game, but makes it really, really powerful. So here we see that it gets scattered by Dritz. We get 2 Void Rays out, and then this particular expansion is going, or this particular proxy is going to get destroyed. So the Zerglings get picked off mostly. Roaches come in. There's some Zealots get warped in, but this is going to get cleaned up really easily. And I mean, you know, 1 or 2 Void Rays against Roaches and Zerglings, yeah, there's going to be some losses on the Zerg part, on the Zerg's behalf, but it's going to be negligible considering the amount of damage that the Roaches can put out in the time it takes 1 or 2 Void Rays to kill them. So this proxy base goes away, and Dritz very smartly just moves his army out of the way, getting chased by this Void Ray. This other Void Ray over here is getting slowly whittled down by this Queen, and it will also get taken out. Lair's already here. Our Zerg player's on 2 base. He's got spine crawlers. He puts a spore crawler at his expansion and 2 in his main. He could have reflexed a lot harder on that and put 2 or 3 in each base, but he did pretty good at controlling his reaction. So now we have the army of Dritz sitting here knocked on the front door of our Protoss opponent. And we'll see him poke up and see what he can do, but very wisely starts moving away as things tend to not go in his favor. Also, at the same time, we start to see Hydras come out with the Groove Spines upgrade almost complete. Some more Zerglings being produced. There's a Robo Bay on the way for Nemu, also a Twilight Council and a Mothership Core being produced, as well as level 1 ground upgrades. The first thing to come out of the Twilight Council is, of course, Charge. Charge upgraded Zealots against this kind of a composition tend to make a big difference in combat, especially if you can get them weapon and armor upgrades. They tend to do a lot of damage really quickly. Now, when I saw this Mothership Core come out, I was thinking to myself, well, Mothership Cores are really good for helping defend these small ramps. Sentries would have been even better because you could just park a sentry here and just keep blocking off your ramp. If that sentry starts to run out of energy, just pop out another sentry, keep blocking off the ramp until you can get up your giant Protoss Death Ball or get the upgrades that you need. We have a Robo Bay coming down to presumably transition into Colossus. I would have really liked to have seen this robotics facility producing anything. Even an Observer would have been nice. The Observer could give good stealthy vision. Third comes down for Dritz. So you can see that he's very consistent. He pushes out. He knows that he's got his opponent contained. So he's going to go ahead and take this third. This Void Ray is going to come out, activate his prismatic alignment, try and burn down this hatchery at all. But at the same time, this force pushes in. Mothership Core could have dropped a Time Warp on this particular area here to give his army an even greater advantage. But we end up just seeing the entire army of Drits come back up to defend this third. Honestly, these 3 Hydras that popped out right here that went up there could have easily done that. He could have left the rest right here at the main base of his opponent to keep this contained live and going. We have a Colossus on the way. Level 2 attacks for our Zerg player coming down. No extended thermal lances yet, mostly because he does not have enough gas on one base. At this point, you see him push out. He could have very easily just pushed out to this point and just kind of held this spot right here. As the Colossus come out, they can park right here on this ledge and catch like this arc right here. So if the Zerg tries to flood in with anything lightweight like these Hydras, the Colossus can just tear him apart from right here, or just force him to fall back. Nemu finally decides that he's good and safe to grab his natural expansion. Extended thermal lance is on the way, and Protoss armor level 1 on the way as well. Meanwhile, the army from Drits just keeps getting larger and larger. If we look at the units tab, we're looking at he's basically cycled out all of his Zerglings, but we're looking at 17 Hydras and 10 Roaches, which is a pretty decent composition. I would have liked to have seen more Roaches and less Hydras in this particular comp, especially after he had scouted and killed off the proxy Stargate that was here. Knowing that your opponent's all in one base, and knowing that you've killed their Stargate production facility already, you can very safely just stay on the ground and not worry too much about having a large amount of Void Rays come out. But if these numbers had been reversed, 17 Roaches, 10 Hydras, I think it would have been a little bit better of an army composition, especially with the 2-0 upgrades out. And of course, we see 6 more Roaches. Our Zerg player realizing that he's a little bit heavy on the Hydras and doesn't have as many tanky units as he should probably have, so he goes ahead and he pumps out those extra Roaches, brings the balance up a little bit better. Some more Zerglings out there. Zerglings are always really, really good for scouting, as you see. He kind of moves his drone down here just to check out what's going on. You can also use these Overlords. If you're really concerned about your opponent getting sneaky, your early Overlords, you can send them out, and when you get Lair Tech, you can have them generate creep, and then they will cover this entire area. Oop, let me box it right. They will cover this entire area with creep, and it will deny an expansion for a considerable amount of time, even after the Overlord's been destroyed. So at this point in the matchup, we see our Protoss opponent actually getting up an army, a good standing army. If we look at the army supply tab here, it is leaning heavily in the favor of our Zerg opponent, but the Protoss player at this point does have the capability to catch up if he so desires. The only problem that the Protoss player is going to run into right now is his lack of workers, because he did not take this first base early on, is going to hurt him a lot, because he just can't mass produce the units the way the Zerg player can. If we look at the camera of Nemu, we see that he has very limited vision. We have an attack coming in. So I really like what Drits was doing here. He would run in, attack a little bit, and then he ran out just to see if he could draw out his Protoss opponent and kill off either some free zealots to soften up the front line of the army a little bit, or draw out the Mothership Core and destroy it, or draw out one of these Colossi and destroy it. But at this point, he just has too much macro, and he goes ahead and he crushes his opponent. This actually ended up putting the win to Drits 2-0, pushed him on to the finals, where he then proceeded to win 3-0 against the only Terran player that we had actually show up, Cosmos. And he won that really, really well. So with that being said, there were some really good things out of that match that I liked. There were some things out of that match that I didn't like. The first thing that I really liked was the proxy Stargate from our Protoss player. It's really cheeky, very, very non-standard, not very common. You don't commonly see proxy Stargates in low-level tournaments. Unless it's a low-level tournament where everybody's just building cheesy stuff or proxy everything. But I'm super, super glad that I see a Zerg player that's out there in the Bronze and Silver Leagues. It's really just focusing on macro. You know, he picked a very easy composition to play. If you build Roach Hydra and you can defend your base and get decent creep spread, which our particular Zerg player had almost half the map covered, so he had really good creep spread. You can just 1A a properly balanced Roach Hydra army. They share upgrades, which makes them relatively cheap, and you can just overwhelm forces. If you have the micro to keep up with it, if you transition into a late game, you can pick up infestors if you're going up against a lot of bio. If you're going up against Terran and you're going Roach Hydra. Not necessarily the best answer to Roach to bio, but you can make it work if you pull out some corrupt or some infestors. And if you're going up against Protoss, especially with Colossus on the field or any really hard-hitting things like Tempest, you can really equalize the matchup by going to Hive Tech and picking up Vipers. They are super, super good with that grab, with the little pull that they have. They can definitely balance out conflict between Zerg and Protoss with Roach Hydra just by pulling the really long-range, heavy-hitting units back into your massive Hydras that will just turn and double volley it and kill it. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm actually pretty proud of myself. I got this in one take. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one and put it up on YouTube. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to start wearing my contact lenses again so that I don't have the problem of the glasses like distorting my face. Like if you look here, you can see that it kind of cuts out my face because I'm blind. I mean, if you look at that, it's thick. It's absolutely thick. It's disgustingly thick. So I'm going to start wearing contacts again. We'll see if we can get rid of the weird distortions on my face and probably give the camera an easier time focusing on me. With that being said, I am more than likely going to be changing my streaming schedule. I'm going to be bumping it back about 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours from 2 p.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern. I think that was the time I decided, 4 p.m. Eastern. I'll update on the website, I'll update on the stream channel, and I'll update it here on YouTube. So I hope to see you guys again. There's some rumors of another tournament coming, so keep an eye out for my YouTube videos. Keep an eye out on my Twitter. My face blags, which I have not finished transitioning from my personal face blags. But yeah, keep an eye out at Threxor for Twitter, youtube.com/Threxor, twitch.tv/Threxor. And I hope that all of you have a wonderful Wednesday. And as always, hope to see you on the ladder.